Hi, this is Rodney, and in this video I'm going to show you some superhero text effects in Adobe Illustrator. These text effects are easy to create and, more importantly, easy to edit later on. They're always live and you can change anything whenever you want. I'm creating this for Deek's Techniques The Challenge, in which he challenged us to create a video tutorial that was inspired by 3 of his techniques. First, I was inspired by Deek's technique number 138, creating a superhero shield in Adobe Illustrator. It gave me the theme for this, but also I loved his blue gradient backgrounds, which I am also using in this tutorial. Secondly was Deek's technique number 134, adding a border to an image in Illustrator, in which he used the appearance panel to add a stroke to a picture. And I'm going to be using the appearance panel a lot and adding strokes, but this time to text instead of pictures. Thirdly, I was inspired by Deek's technique 127, creating an upside down face effect, in which he created this creepy effect in Photoshop. Now I know I'm in Illustrator, but the upside down thing got me thinking about reflections. And of course, my theme is type, so I'm doing reflections on type. And you may just freak out when you realize that you can actually go in here and edit these live at any point, which is the whole idea behind this video tutorial. Let's take a look at how I did this. Switch over to a starting document. And the important thing here is that I'm not going to use the type tool. I'm going to be using the selection tool. I'll start by selecting the type. And it's important to understand the difference between characters and type. Characters are like a lot of objects grouped into a type object. Characters are the thing that are limited in that they can't have things like gradients applied to them. So if you select your text and you try to click on a gradient to apply it, it will seem as though it doesn't work because it's being applied to the characters and not the type. If I double click on the characters, you'll see that the fill is a gradient, it just isn't working. So we have to clear the characters. Select the fill, hit delete, so there is no stroke or fill on the characters. Then I click back up on the type object, and here is where I'm going to add the fill. Don't worry that it seemed to have disappeared, it's still selected. I'm going to click Add New Fill, and here I'm adding the fill to the type object. That's the difference. It's not on the characters, it's now on the type. So with that fill selected, I can apply my gradient, and it actually works. It works because it's not on the characters, it works because it's on the fill. Then I can go to my gradient tool, adjust the direction, do whatever I want. And of course, this is still editable. Very cool. Next up is adding a gradient stroke. That is new in Illustrator CS6. We can just go and increase the stroke weight. It's very easy to add gradient strokes now in CS6. Of course, we still have the problem that half the stroke is inside the type and half is out, so it's obscuring the fill of the text. Unlike with characters, where you cannot reorder the front to back ordering of the fill and the stroke, when you're doing this on the type object, you can actually drag the stroke underneath the fill. Granted, now you're only seeing half of the stroke, half is being covered over by the fill, so this is technically an 8-point stroke instead of a 16-point stroke, but this is a much better visual effect. Let's go to the gradient panel and set the angle like so. Now, if you're doing this in CS5 or older, you can actually still get the effect of a gradient stroke, just not actually using the stroke. You can add another fill, and then you can take that fill, give it a different gradient. Right now you don't see it because the top fill is covering over it. If I hide that, then you'll see it. And you have to take this bottom fill and add another effect called path, offset path. Offset means to move out from the current position. And you're simply going to offset this or push it out as far as you want it to go. You can click into this field and hit your up and down arrow keys to experiment with exactly how far out you want it to be. So this looks like a stroke even though it's technically not a stroke, it's a fill that's been offset. Since I'm in CS6 and I can do official gradient strokes, I'm going to allow it to use the stroke effect. Next, let's make this fill stand out a little bit more. So we'll go in and add a drop shadow. And by selecting just the fill, it's the fill that gets the drop shadow and not the entire object, so it helps to set that fill off of the stroke, give it more depth. We can also add additional strokes. Clicking the stroke button, I'm going to go down to a 1-point white stroke, and this just helps to accent the fill. If we want, we can actually have this, instead of stroking the fill, we can have it stroke the other stroke, but we have to get a little trickier for that. We're going to take that stroke, go in and add a offset path effect. So once again, we're moving it out from its original position. How far out is going to be exactly the weight of the other stroke. So it's actually 8 point stroke because half is in, half is out. So we're going to make that 8, like so. Click OK. Next, we have to deal with these overlaps that don't look very good. Each individual character has been offset, and we really need to merge them all together. Now normally you'd have to create outlines, use a Pathfinder panel, but we want to keep all of this live. So we want the effect of the Pathfinder, but not the loss of editability. So I'm going to once again take that stroke, and we're going to add another effect, and they actually have Pathfinders as an effect, so they're non-destructive. And we're simply going to add all those strokes together so they get unified into one piece. Super awesome. If I open that up, I can see that it's been offset, it's been added together, and you can still go back in there and change the thickness, like so. And if you don't like the offset, you can take it off, and you can play around with exactly how you like that effect to be. The last thing that we'll do to this is we'll add one more effect, a warp effect. If you don't know what these look like, simply just choose any one of them, and in here you can actually get icons to see better what they're going to do. I'm going to check on preview and put these to 0 to start out with no distortion. And here you can bend in one way or another. I'm going to go like this. And then here you can distort it, where you're kind of flipping it three-dimensionally from one side to the next or from the bottom to the top. So here you push the one side bigger or the other side bigger. I'm going to go towards this side being bigger. And then vertically you're flipping the bottom towards you or the top towards you. And I like something like that effect. Cool. And then any of this can still be edited after the fact. Awesome typography. Next is the reflection. First we'll need to add the gradient. Don't forget we have to clear the characters. Get rid of the fill and stroke there. Then click on the type object and add our fill there. That's the fill that we can use with a gradient. Go to the gradient tool, change the angle. Now we can add our effect. We need to keep this fill, and then we need to have a second fill for the reflection. So I'm going to take that fill and click New Fill, which duplicates it. And the second fill we're going to flip upside down. And that's going to require an effect under Distort and Transform. It's called Transform. Check on Preview, and we're going to reflect. Now, we're reflecting that on the center axis. So keep in mind that we have the original one, and now we have a second fill. And we're reflecting that one on the middle. We really want to reflect it on the bottom. So if we check that on now it's flipping over this bottom. Now, because of things like the C and the S coming down a little bit, you might want to move that vertically up just slightly to eliminate any line that you might see. Vertical scale you might also want to adjust because typically reflections aren't as vertically tall as the thing that is creating them. And let's click OK. Now, each fill has its own opacity. This opacity is for the whole object. This opacity is just for that individual fill, the one that I've transformed. So I'm going to click on that, and I can simply reduce the transparency. Now, that doesn't give a really convincing reflection because normally reflections disappear as they move further away from the object. Recent versions of Illustrator have added the ability to edit the opacity as part of the gradient. So as it moves further away, I can slowly decrease the opacity of the gradient until it ends up becoming 0%. And that fade creates a more convincing reflection. Of course, this is all editable, so you can go in there and make changes whenever you feel like it. I hope you've enjoyed learning more about Adobe Illustrator's cool text effects. This is Dan Rodney. Thanks for watching.